we'd like to welcome Sarah to the stage. I think you're going to love her keynote.
All right, well, let's start out with a question this morning. Do you remember your first road trip? Maybe you were a little kid, you hopped into the car full of energy and excitement. Probably a little impatient to get to your destination too, right? Or maybe it was when you first got your license. This was going to be your newfound independence. Your sense of adventure was born. Well, I remember my first road trip. My family of 5 headed out in our minivan. We started in Minnesota. We traveled through the Great Plains, very boring, over the Rocky Mountains, and into the desert. Our destination was going to be California. Well, the problem started in Death Valley, in the middle of the desert. The problem was our car, our minivan, started to overheat. Now, the air temperature was 110 degrees. The car was overheating, so my dad pulled us over to the side of the road, and sure enough, the radiator had a hole in it. So we spent the next few minutes chewing a pack of that juicy fruit gum. Do you remember that gum? Yeah. So we chewed up the gum, and my dad took the gum, put it into the hole, got us back on the road. Pretty funny, right? Well, it didn't last very long, of course, because the air temperature was 110 degrees. We got a little further, but we were stuck now in the middle of the desert. Now, this was before cell phones. There weren't any people around, no buildings. And my dad had another idea, a wild, harebrained idea. He turned on the heater. Now, it may seem counterintuitive, but if you know anything about engines, which I did not at the age of 12, the heater will pull the heat off of the engine and put it into the cab. Of course, our bodies were a little hotter, but we were able to get back on the road and make it to our destination. It was a fantastic trip. But this story is about the creative problem solving. It's about having that moment when your back is against the wall, when you're faced with a crisis, when you've got a challenge and you don't know how to solve it. It's about finding that internal drive, that creative problem-solving skill that's in all of us, finding it to solve the problem. Good morning. Thank you so much for having me here today. It's an absolute honor. I am passionate about the topic of innovation, about helping individuals, teams, and organizations to drive growth through new ideas, building a mindset that enables this type of evolution, this passion for the next thing that will help us serve, that will help drive our businesses forward. So I've made this my mission, to connect with folks like yourselves, to try to create an aha moment in every single one of you. So we'll see how I do. Speaking of, I have been on a journey of my own, and I wanted to share a little bit about that with you. So I started in corporate America, and then I was a part of a couple of startups, helping them to build and eventually sell their businesses. And I also opened a business of my own. Funny enough, I am the 3rd generation to carry on my family's legacy, serving my grandmother's specialty sandwiches, pizzas, etc. So you'll see Traska and Company Eatery, and we're just starting to franchise, which is really fun. I have 5 kids, which is crazy in and of itself, right? My husband's a teacher. So we have a pretty complicated, pretty busy journey of our own. My mission through my work, I've done a lot of work globally with big businesses, some small, and everywhere in between. And what I found is pretty interesting. The challenges that every business faces, that every team faces, are pretty similar. What I have found through the vast array of businesses is that most business professionals that are, working and getting along in their jobs, they've had their creativity stifled. Somewhere along the path, someone said to them, no, you can't do it that way. We do it this way. Legal will never say yes to that. And so we start to dial back our passion, our ideas, our energy, until we are just another cog in the wheel. So that's what I'm here to do today, to help you reinvigorate that creative problem-solving vibe. All right, another question for you here. Let's get it going. Who is the top map company in the world today? Shout it out to me. Great. Google. They also own Waze. Huge international player, right? All right, a little harder question for you. Who was the top map company 20 years ago? Oh, you guys are so good. Okay, Rand McNally is the answer. All right. So Rand McNally, interestingly enough, they were not just the top 20 years ago. They were the top company 120 years ago. But somewhere in the last 20 years, they forgot to do something critically important. They forgot to innovate. The company was founded in 1856. At their height, they had over 5,000 employees across the globe, the top cartographers in the world, and a number of impressive innovations under their belt, like the Atlas, right? But these folks fell into a trap. The trap is that they became intoxicated by their own success. They believed that if they kept doing things the way they'd always done it, they would always experience the same results. So, they failed to adapt, they failed to innovate, and I would say, at this point, they have an antiquated and outdated form of maps. So the lesson to us is clear. We must continue to be a source of disruption, rather than having that disruption thrust upon us. We must practice creative problem solving, challenging the status quo across all of the roles, all of the levels of our organizations. And this is increasingly important today because things in our world are being upended. The amount of changes on a daily basis, they're staggering. This here is a digital sanitizer that's powered by your phone's flashlight. Even things as simple as zip ties are being used in new ways. This is a Band-Aid you can buy on Amazon. Believe it or not, you pull on the zip ties each day, it helps to seal the cut, and it's 8 times stronger than stitches. Now, washing your hands. This seems like an everyday thing that most people know. Well, try getting kids to wash their hands, right? It's challenging. And across the world, some of the most dangerous diseases are solved if kids will just wash their hands a little better. So Hope Soap did something extraordinary. They put toys in the soap. To get it out, you gotta wash your hands. Even something as basic as crossing the street is being disrupted. Across the world, one of the most dangerous things right now is people who are distracted by their phones crossing the street. And so a little company in Germany began to install a light that tells you at the edge of the sidewalk, go or don't go. This here is an LED-based street crossing. It alerts pedestrians when it's their turn to cross the road, and it alerts motorists when a hazard has entered the roadway. The amount of disruption, the changes that are happening in our world, in our industry, everywhere around us, are unprecedented. To keep up with these changes, to harness this type of energy and power, I believe we have to harness the most amazing technology of all. But it's not AI, It's not augmented reality. It's not virtual reality. It's human creativity. That becomes the one thing that cannot be outsourced. It cannot be automated. It becomes our one true source of sustainable competitive advantage. So no matter what is on your business card or your lapel today, I would suggest that you embrace a secondary role, that of disruptor, that of positive disruptor, because those are the skills and mindsets that will help us win in these highly competitive, highly changing, and challenging times. Now, this road trip that we go on, this journey of innovation is very exciting, especially at the beginning. We have exuberance, we have energy, we have excitement to reach our destination. But what's the one thing that really makes the road trip? Well, it's the playlist, right? It's the music, it's the tunes that keep us up, that get us going when we start to get bored or lonely or lose our energy. If we have the right tracks on this road trip, on this journey of innovation, it can be magical. So I'm going to share with you today my 5 tracks for what I call your playlist of innovation. Let's dive in. The first track is that there ain't no mountain high enough. There ain't no valley low enough. There ain't no challenge great enough. If we bring enough energy, enough passion, enough ideas, we can solve anything. Now, the most creative people on the planet, they are no more creative than any of us in this room here today. But what they do when they are faced with a setback or a challenge, they dive in deeper. They don't throw up their arms or throw in the towel. They say not yet. They throw more energy at it, more passion, more ideas, and before long, whatever barrier they're faced with melts away. This is a man named Kevin Bull. Now, Kevin was a financial planner, but Kevin had a dream. His dream was to become an American Ninja Warrior. Do you guys know this show? It's amazing, right? It's one after another, highly physical competitions. The people that make it onto this show, they are former Olympians, professional athletes. These are people that have trained their whole lives. Kevin sits behind a desk every day. But with great grit, with determination, he makes it onto the show. Now that he's on the show, he's facing the challenge of his life. It's called Cannonball Alley. 16 of the world's top competitors go before Kevin, and all 16 fail. Now it's his turn. He knows he does not have the upper body strength of those other competitors. He knows he has to do something different. Let's check out what Kevin did.
Kevin Bull, may the force be with you, because he is going to need it.
You can hear the other finalists cheering him on. Such camaraderie in this sport. They love to see success, even sometimes at the expense of their own fortunes.
I think what that is real respect for this course.
A course that's been unbeatable so far tonight. He is propelling himself right up the salmon ladder. Oh, a little uneven. You can see a lot of movement in his body.
Good.
Now, Bull ready to take on the dreaded Cannonball Alley. And by touching that first cannonball, Kevin Bull is in. He's going to Vegas.
If I'm Kevin Bull here, I'm stealing a page out of Thaddeus Robeck's book, and I'm hugging the cannonballs.
With that, oh, look at this! A new approach. Getting both legs over it. Is he going to go inverted?
Wow.
I like it. Thinking outside the box, and sometimes it takes a rookie to do that. Look at this!
Oh.
He's hanging upside down. I love it!
Oh.
He's going to go for the dismount upside down. And
Oh. Wow. That's what I'm talking about.
The first man to complete the Cannonball Alley Cannonball.
Oh, man. Are you kidding me?
Wow, the crowd erupts.
Are you kidding me?
What an effort. David Campbell's words prove prophetic. Kevin Bull is the real deal. the first man to survive Cannonball Alley. He has punched his ticket to Mount Midoriyama, but he is not done.
When we think about our future, when we think about fully embracing our potential, I believe this is how we get there. We take what other people have done and we flip it upside down. We take outdated traditions, changing the model, just like what worked for Kevin. Another great story for you, this time Jessica Matthews. Jessica was born in Nigeria. She came to the United States to do her college education, and about halfway through, she goes back to Nigeria to celebrate her aunt's wedding. It was a beautiful event. She was reconnecting with old friends and family. They were laughing and dancing and telling stories, all until the power went out. Now, this is a common occurrence in a developing part of the world where the power grid can no longer keep up with the current demands. So what did they do? Well, they fired up the diesel generators, of course. This is what they always do. Now the party could continue. Jessica and the other guests could go back to laughing and dancing and having fun. But now, as they were doing so, they were breathing in those very toxic diesel fumes. As her lungs were burning, as she was choking and coughing on those fumes, she said to herself, there's got to be a better way. And perhaps more impressive to me, she said, and I'm going to do something about it. Now, this young woman had no energy sector experience. She had no capital. She had no business even asking these questions. But she wanted to do something. So she started thinking about this, really letting it simmer. The next day, she was watching a soccer game in the fields in her community, and she thought to herself, man, if I could harness the energy from these kids, I bet I could power the whole city. So she went back to the United States and retold this story to a classmate, a friend of hers, who just happened to be an engineering major. And the two of them developed the socket. Now, the socket looks and plays just like a normal soccer ball, but on the inside, it has a kinetic generator. Said another way, 1 hour on the soccer field translates into powering a light bulb for 8 hours. Now the kids in her community are able to read at night. She pressed on a little further. The next thing she invented was a jump rope. Jump a little rope, charge your mobile device. She continued to help people throughout the world to have an energy supply that was completely sustainable and especially focused on kids. Jessica Matthews found a way to make a difference. She's made a beautiful name for herself, a beautiful business. In fact, now she actually has third-party manufacturers who are licensing her technology. There are products throughout the world, including a hydroelectric dam in Nigeria, and all sorts of products like roller bags. You can roll your bag through the Orlando airport, and as the wheels are turning, the bag is generating energy. You get to your gate, you charge in your device. This is what happens when we believe that there's no challenge too great. There's no mountain that we cannot climb, no valley too low. If we bring enough energy, an undying passion for solving any problem. On our road trip, the next track on your playlist better be The Times They Are A-Changing. Great song, right? But the premise behind this track is that the world is changing around us. We must keep up. This track is all about continuous evolution, Kaizen. Small incremental changes and improvements over time equal great change. This is the philosophy that someday a company will come along and put us out of business. it might as well be us. We have to keep evolving. Here's a great example. Who in the room likes bananas? Wonderful. Okay, most of you. So if you're like me and you go to the grocery store and you're looking for bananas, you are faced with a terrible dilemma. Do I buy the green bananas or the yellow bananas? Because inevitably, every banana stand looks like this, right? And if you buy the yellow bananas, in a couple of days, they look like this. And unless you are an expert banana bread maker, which I'm not, you have wasted food, wasted money, and frustrated breakfast eaters. But a little company in South Korea had a different idea. They wanted to serve in a different way. They knew that their business needed to continue to evolve and change. Here's the way they sell their bananas. So they combined varying levels of ripeness. They eliminated the frustration of those overripe bananas. And the beauty for this business? They sell their bananas for 3 times the price of an equal weight sold by the bunch. Talk about serving, right? Growing, evolving, meeting needs that people didn't even realize they had. Here's my next example. We all know this brand, right? Legos. This brand, this business, started in 1932. A Danish master carpenter built the first Legos out of wood. Funny enough, his intention was to build a STEM toy. They didn't call it that back then, but he wanted to build something that kids could play with, that could bring creativity, that they could have a tactile toy to play with their hands. Now, the brand has done so well over the years, continuing to be that type of STEM toy. It evolved into being made of plastic and had decades of success. But the interesting thing about Legos is that in 2003, the business was facing bankruptcy. So the leaders got together, and the CEO asked the group a question. What is it that kids want? Well, this got the group going. They realized that they really hadn't changed their business for 75 years. So they started a shotgun approach. They started throwing out all sorts of ideas, testing the waters. They came up with the Friends collection, which you might remember, the Ninjago brand. They even went into the movie business. These leaders started challenging what this brand meant and trying to make a connection with the kids of now. Now, in 2023, we even have Lego kits that are hundreds of dollars, right? That have robotics included in their kits. There's even a kit now that teaches people Braille. But here's the point. In 2003, when this company was on the verge of collapse, the leaders recognized we have to meet the demands of today. We have to anticipate how kids want to interact with our brand. It's not 1932 anymore. Now they evolve constantly. Now they are challenging the boundaries of what a Lego has been known for. This is the top toy brand across the world. If you have any interest, look at the delta to their nearest competitor. Everything is changing. We better evaluate that and evolve alongside of it. We better press the boundaries. Some people think it's risky to change. I would say it is way riskier not to. The times, they are changing. So in the evolution of your journey, as you recognize the need to have this tenacity to bring ideas, in this ever-evolving method? The next track that I'd like to share with you, the principle is that you got to bring the other folks along. This track, Light My Fire, great Doors song, right? But it's all about the premise. Your ideas may be amazing, but if you can light the fire around you, if you can bring others along, empowering them to come with their own sparks of energy, you will have exponential possibilities. Here's a great example. This is a bicycle manufacturer. They're known for being extremely innovative. The company was founded in the 1970s. They're out of Northern California. And if you're a cyclist, you probably know this brand, right? Specialized Bikes has been known for challenging the boundary of what bikes are known for. Here's a great example. When they were coming up with their next concept bike, not a bike for the professional cyclists in competitions, like the Tour de France, but for everyday folks, using cycling as a hobby or as exercise. They wanted to again challenge the notion of what a bicycle was like. Let me show you here what they did.
The bicycle is the most efficient machine known to man. And with modern technology now, it's a great time to really take advantage of the great innovations in the bike industry.
So when we design a race bike, there's a lot of considerations that we put into it. But just like pretty much every other racing that's out there, including F1 or NASCAR, there's a governing body. For cycling, that governing body is the UCI. And so the UCI has a rule book that defines limitations on what we can do with bike design. But we always get the question, hey, if you don't have any rules, what could you do? Robert, our creative designer, went out and created this new concept bike, which he jokingly calls the FUCI bike, which of course stands for the UCI.
It's done in tongue-in-cheek, but I've always felt that we need to break out of that box in a very fun and decisive way, challenging what a real bicycle looks like.
All right. So this is what the FUCI bike looks like. Here's what they did. They took that rule book, and one by one, they went through it. And they did the exact opposite. They said both tires, both wheels have to be the same size. That's in the rule book. So they said, great. Let's make the back tire bigger, which will aid in acceleration. The rule book says no aerodynamics. They said, great. Let's add flares all over the bike. It'll reduce the drag. The rule book says no motorized components. They said, perfect. And they put a little motor into the crank, which aids in getting acceleration going, helping people up hills. This is an incredibly popular bicycle. All because they were willing to light the fire under their team, to get everyone empowered to challenge the status quo, to come up with ideas, to bring forth the type of energy that would evolve their business. All right, let's think about the cattle industry for a moment. What is their pesky problem? The flies, right? Now, this may seem like just a nuisance to you and I, who presumably you're not cattle farmers, I'm not. But this is a really big problem. In fact, the cows are getting bit by these flies sometimes hundreds of thousands of times in a week, interrupting the natural patterns of the cows, their eating, their sleeping habits. This represents a $2 billion a year issue for the cattle industry worldwide. Most of us would think, well, this is just the way things are. Nothing we can do. Others have tried netting, pesticides, putting the animals indoors, all interrupting and really damaging the welfare of the animals. But a little group in Japan had a different idea. The leader of this organization, they produce Kobe beef, said to the team, there's got to be a better way. Lighting the fire of this entire organization, and out these folks went, researching all over the world. Their question was, where are animals not getting bit by flies? Turns out, zebras don't get bit by flies. And it turns out that the black and white striped pattern on the zebras actually create a depth perception issue for the flies. They can't even land. So what did they do, these Kobe beef farmers? Well, they painted the cows, of course. It reduced the fly biting by 90% overnight. Non-toxic paint, costing them pennies, solving their problem. All because the entire team was lit up with a challenge. All right, my next story for you, again about bicycles. This time it's even more fun, I think. This is a company called Van Moof. This is a Dutch manufacturer of high-end commuter bicycles. These guys are known for being the Tesla of bikes in Europe. These are custom built, they're hand assembled, they are shipped to their customers' doors in a big corrugated box. Now, the problem started for this company when the bikes were getting banged up in shipping. Now, being the Tesla of bikes, they of course had to offer repairs, exchanges, returns, you name it. It was getting very costly for the company, not to mention damaging their brand's reputation. So once again, the leaders got together. Then they armed their team. They sent their team out to explore, why is this happening? One young man on their team came back with a question. Why is it that those flat screen TVs are shipped in almost an identical box directly to the door of the customers, and they don't have the breakage that we do? So they started brainstorming. First idea, let's double the size of the packaging to protect the bikes a little more. Someone else said, why don't we hire one of those white-gloved courier services to hand deliver these bikes? But the team was armed with this question. Here was their solution. So they printed an image of a flat screen TV on the outside of their bike packaging, costing them pennies in ink and reducing the breakage by 75% overnight. All because they lit the fire of curiosity. They broadened the reach. Not just the leaders could solve this, the whole team was able to solve this. When you light the fire of your team, you will be unstoppable. This here is the Children's Hospital at the University of Pittsburgh. Who are their customers? Sick kids and their families, right? So the leaders of the hospital, once again, they got together and they said, we'd like to serve our community better. So they issued that question to the entire team. And a very unlikely source of people came forward. We have an idea, they said. You can tell this is a creative organization. Look at their building. And this is their lobby. They wanted to serve these sick kids. The idea came from the window washers. You see, they already had to wash the windows anyway. No productivity is lost. But if we could dress up as superheroes, we can entertain the kids. It became a game changer. The kids look forward to this all week. They forget why they're there. This idea is certainly better for the families and the kids who have something to look forward to each week. It's better for the leaders of the hospital who can now serve their community in a bigger way. And it's also better for the window washers who now have a more powerful purpose to their work. When you light the fire around you, when you allow people to come up with sparks of creativity, when you provide them a safe place without the fear of failure, not every idea will work, but providing a safe place for the flow of ideas, you will create a fire that can solve any challenge. The next track on your playlist is that we've got to get on the road again. Progress always involves risk. We may come across a detour. We may have a pothole. We may go in the wrong direction. But this is about getting back on the road again. Having the grit, having the tenacity, having the endurance to find our way back on the road again. Here's a great story. This time, an everyday guy named Bo Coffrin. Now, Bo lives in the Oklahoma City area. 2 little kids, normal job, not unlimited means. But he had a couple of goals. His first goal was that he wanted to be a better father for these 2 little kids. His second goal was that he wanted to get his kids to eat healthier. Now, for those of us who have little ones in our lives, we know this is a challenge, right? In this age of convenience, drive-through food, processed food is easy, and kids love it. It's very difficult to get them to eat healthy foods. But as a parent, helping to set these good habits, helping to get them to have the nutrition to help them through their school and activities, athletics, it's an important component of being a parent these days. So Bo started trying some things. He started a bribe program. He started a consequences chart. Nothing was working. Now, as Bo was raising these 2 little kids, he also had another challenge. He lost his own father. In his grief, he recognized yet again this need to get back on the road with this project, to make that sincere connection with his little kids, and to get them to eat healthier foods. One day, as he was packing their school lunches, he had an idea. He remembered how much his little daughter loves the American Girl dolls. Do you know these dolls? They're amazing, right? They're super cute. So when his daughter got to school that day, when she opened up her lunchbox, this is what she saw. So creative, amazingly themed, and healthy eating. When she got home that day, Bo reports, she gave him the hug of his life. So naturally, he did it again the next day, this time for his son. Pretty soon, all the kids in the lunchroom were gathered around the Coffrin kids, waiting for them to open up their lunchboxes. And those kids started telling their parents. And the parents started calling Bo. Turns out, they too wanted the opportunity to make a connection with their children and to get their kids to eat healthier foods. Now, as one buddy said, you've got to open up a website. Being of little means, he opened a free WordPress site, but it was just enough to post a picture and the instructions. You can tell these are not chef-created meals. It was just enough for him to give the explanation to others. This is how he launched lunchboxdad.com. Now, the next evolution, pretty impressive. And he didn't make a single sales call, but the big brands started calling him. Nike, Kraft. Turns out they wanted to put their logo next to his creative solution for families. Hundreds of thousands of people flocked to his website. Because of the sponsorship of these brands, he was able to leave his job. He now does this full time, helping families throughout the world to make a connection and to get their kids to eat healthier. Now, as a mom of 5 kids, I can relate. This is a challenge that most parents face. When Bo was in his frustrated, grief-stricken dad moment, what he didn't do was give up. He got himself back on the road again, finding a solution, and finding a solution for many others. Another gentleman, this time a young boy, 12 years old, Luel Mayen. Luel grew up in South Sudan. His family was a family of refugees. I'm sure you can imagine life as a refugee, wandering around looking for food, clean water, medicine, shelter. And it's a very, very dangerous way of living. I'm sure you can imagine there's a lot of times where your belongings are stolen. They were dodging bullets, they were dodging bombs. One day, Luel and his mother, he's 12 years old, happened upon a UN base camp. And for the first time in Luel's life, he saw something incredible. He saw a computer. He said to his mom, "This is amazing, and I want one of those." Just like any 12-year-old, right? Now, this family didn't even have enough money for food, so he soon forgot about his request, but his mom did not. For the next 3 years, she worked odds and ends jobs around the community, doubling down her efforts to make some extra funds, and on his 15th birthday, she gave him a computer. Pretty magical, right? But the problem, they didn't have any power. So this child, 15 years old, starts his daily trek, hiking 3 hours to get to the UN base camp to charge his computer, then hiking 3 hours back. In the evenings, he taught himself how to use the computer. Pretty impressive. Every day, hiking back and forth, charging his computer, teaching himself more. And as he's hiking and walking, he's thinking to himself, what an incredible gift my mom gave me. And he wanted to pay it back. Pretty soon, this 15-year-old realized that his favorite thing to do with the computer was video games, right? His favorite was Grand Theft Auto. Yeah, pretty crazy. It's a dangerous game. It's chaotic. There's guns and all sorts of crazy things. But what it made Luel realize is that when he was playing this video game, it created empathy for him to understand what it was like to be the character he was playing. So that gave him a thought. The next thing he did was decided to learn how to code because he wanted to know if he could build his own video game. And in fact, he did so. At 17, he created the first game that was called Salam, which is an Arabic word for peace. Millions of people have played this game on Facebook, and what it does is it allows the user to put themselves in the shoes of a refugee, trying to find clean water, trying to dodge bullets, find shelter. The amazing thing that happened next was that the UN contacted Luel. They brought their sponsors, their partners throughout the world, and now when you are playing this game and you find medicine or clean water or shelter, These UN partners are donating to real refugees throughout the world. This young man was able to find a way to help the refugees of the world, always remembering that we can solve anything if we'll just get back on the road again. Failure, falling off the path, finding a detour is all a part of the process. But this is about having that internal drive, that grit and tenacity, that if we fail, we will get back on our intended path. We've got to get back on the road again. So the last track that I'd like to share with you is a great Journey song. You got the pun, didn't you? All right. It's called Don't Stop Believing. This is having the opportunity to propel yourself forward. We may fall down 7 times, but we have to get back up 8. If we believe, if we light the fires of those around us to also believe, we will find the innovation and the creative solutions that we need. This is a great story. This time, it's about a library in Troy, Michigan. The library was facing a crisis. You see, the budget had gotten so bad that the library was about to shut down for good. So the leaders of the library got together, and instead of dusting off their resumes, they said, we can't stop believing. There's got to be a way. Let me show you here what they did.
There once was a library, a beautiful, busy, award-winning library. Unfortunately, times were hard. The city of Troy, Michigan no longer had enough money for its library, so it scheduled a vote asking the townspeople to approve a small tax increase. This angered an anti-tax group known as the Tea Party. Well-organized and well-funded, they started posting Vote No signs, mailing flyers, and making noise. They dominated the conversation, changing the topic from library, books, and reading to taxes, taxes, taxes. With no money and an election less than a month away, the library needed help. They needed something attention-getting, audacious, maybe even vile. So we decided to form a group of our own and started planting signs around town that said, "Vote to close the library August 2nd, book burning party August 5th. The idea of book burning is bad enough, but gleefully making it a party, well, that angered people enough to send them to our Facebook page.
You people are sick. This is disgusting. Reject the wackos. Vote yes.
But we didn't stop there. We created videos.
Imagine this times 200,000. How cool is that?
Posted on Twitter.
The Troy Library might be short on money, but it has books to burn.
Created items for sale.
A book bag. How ironic.
We placed newspaper ads, created check-ins, posted flyers, and lined up entertainment.
You guys are booking a band?
People became enraged.
Why would you burn books, idiots?
This is horrible.
Cheap imbeciles.
What the is this world coming to?
We should burn your signs instead.
Complete and total
This
idiots.
is really just pathetic.
Jerks.
They posted their own links, shared with friends, debated the merits of libraries and the audacity of burning books. The conversation spread from Facebook to city council meetings, from newspapers to TV. It grew from local to national, even international news. Once it reached a fevered pitch, we revealed the true intent of our campaign. A vote against the library is like a vote to burn books. And people started posting, tweeting, and reporting all over again. In the end, we had changed the conversation completely, from taxes, 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 to library, library, library. And on August 2nd, the yes voters, voters who don't normally turn out to vote, turned out at levels 342% greater than projected. And the library won by a landslide. The town's library, its beautiful, award-winning library, had been saved. Not every story at the library has a happy ending. Fortunately, this one did.
Pretty amazing story, right? The library is still there today, all because these people believed. Now imagine that we wanted to start a shoe business. We would be up against behemoth brands, right? Some of the brands, like Nike, spend billions of dollars just on marketing alone. They have incredibly big celebrities repping their business. They have the distribution, the operations nailed. This would be an enormously overwhelming project. But that's just what a little company called Adams did not long ago. Now, this is a Brooklyn-based shoe business. They were a startup, and they launched and are having incredible success. Here's how they did it. These folks took a look around, and they recognized that over 60% of the world's population has different sized feet. For most people, it's subtle, but for some, this becomes a pretty big barrier to buying shoes. So they became the first company to launch shoes in quarter-sized increments. In fact, you order from the comfort of your home and they ship them to you, and you try them on, and you get to try on a 9 3/4 for one foot and perhaps a 10 1/2 for the other. You find the shoes that fit each foot perfectly, and you ship back the rest. This company identified an area, a niche, a problem that was not being solved. These guys had 100,000 pre-orders on the night of their launch. When we dig deep, when we find a way to serve, to meet the needs in a way that is different, when we are compelled to never stop believing that we have the power to solve the problems around us, that can be a game changer. So these are the 5 tracks on our playlist of innovation. As you take this journey to propel your business forward, remember these 5. Now, the challenges, they've never been greater. The competition has never been stiffer. The amount of complexity and change has never been so robust. But I also believe that the opportunity has never been more profound. Let's seize it. Let's make today our jumping off point. Let's double down our effort to have this new creative vibe spill over, lighting the fire of those around us. And if we can have that internal grit, that dedication to get ourselves back on the path if we fall off, to get others around us, help them up if they fall, I believe we will seize the enormous opportunity that lies just beyond these doors. Thank you so much for having me, everyone. Truly appreciate it.